tell us a bit about your background. Why did you want to train to become a life coach, and what were you doing before then?
So before life coaching, I had spent most of my career in marketing, doing quite, sort of digital focused roles or big more commercial roles in some big businesses. So most recently I worked for Amazon. I left Amazon to start consulting, my own consulting business in 2017. And as I was making the transition into consulting, I had been thinking about what do I do next, because I was very much in this state of, I know what I'm doing is not what I want to do. I know that I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm kind of driven by purpose in a lot of ways. And so I started to consider coaching at that time, but it felt like it was quite a leap, because at least I was very familiar with marketing and I knew that, and I could kind of make a leap into working for myself. And actually I started the consulting and I still felt the same way, which was, it was just the context around how I felt was different, because I wasn't working for a big business and I had a whole bunch of other noise going on that goes along with running your own business. But I still felt that real kind of lack of the kind of lack of purpose and fulfillment. And when I started to really look at the things that I am passionate about, the things that I'm good at, that really play to my strengths, it became clear that moving towards coaching was sort of started to become a bit of a no-brainer. I'd been doing a lot of mentoring by that point as well. And so it felt like it made a lot of sense as a leap, and it really fitted with what I do and the kind of person I am. So that was kind of how I got here, basically.
So it's like a little bit of a calling.
Oh yeah, I would say that definitely. Yeah.
So when you say it's a bit of like the person I am, tell us about that bit of you then that might have been being called to coaching.
Very much someone who is, I'm very interested in kind of the individual, which can be very challenging when you're working in a big business, because it's very hard to kind of scale. It's very hard to scale it if you're really wondering about how do people react as individuals, what's the best kind of working environment, how do we get the most out of each and every one of them, can be really tough. And that was something that I struggled with when I was working in big companies, but individual people need different things. And so that's certainly something for me, like really interested in what's driving them and how to help get the best out of them. I'm very empathetic, and my EQ is quite high, so I'm usually very in tune with what's happening with people and what's going on with them, even if they haven't necessarily told me. Communication's also a really big strength, and some of that, obviously with coaching, a lot of what you're doing is listening, but that's still a very important part of communicating, even if you're not actually talking. So I think it really kind of came down to those parts, and also just having been through a process of not knowing what I wanted to do, feeling a bit lost, having my own kind of confidence issues to work through, and coming out of the other side and knowing how different it feels. That's the part that becomes, I think, the purpose for me, is also, I know what that feels like. And I think that's also a strength for me, is I've kind of been on that journey myself, and I can really apply that to how I help other people, and other women in particular, get through that lack of confidence and lack of purpose, to find something better on the other side.
So you did mention on your website energy practitioner, and you said spiritual coaching is very important to you. Is that what being an energy practitioner is? Tell us a bit about that.
So the specific sort of tool that I am a practitioner of is called EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And EFT it uses similar principles to acupuncture and acupressure, which is that you have energy meridians that run through your whole body. And in the event of a trauma, be that a very large scale trauma or just the small emotional traumas that can take place over our lives from when we're very young up until now, if they're not dealt with and released, they basically cause a block in your system. So like we know, like limiting beliefs are kind of usually made up of things that will happen, potentially like in childhood, or things that we learn from our parents, or bullying at school, or seeing parents having a traumatic divorce or something like that. Our bodies still go into fight or flight in those moments, regardless of how big kind of regardless of how big the moment is or how small it is, we still respond in exactly the same way as we did kind of prehistorically. So you go into fight or flight, and essentially what happens is everything in your body tenses right up, and all of this energy kind of locks in because you're readying to either fight for your life or to run away really quickly. But in these emotionally traumatic moments, neither of those things happen. So essentially that energy doesn't dissipate, it doesn't have anywhere to go, and it stays locked in. And so what we do is we just kind of move past it and we carry on. And those energy blocks actually can effectively form like what our limiting beliefs are. And so what EFT uses is we tap on the energy points whilst there are certain kind of statements that we have and a process that we go through, but we use tapping on all of those energy points to help release the block. And it's a really good way. It works really well with coaching because it's a good way of kind of managing the limiting beliefs. And it's also very good for relieving stress and anxiety, for confidence. And it's quite a useful tool to kind of take away and do yourself. You don't have to have someone in the room with you the whole time. So it's great. I'm a big fan.
You're helping people fall in love with themselves. Now, given that the British culture is very much stiff upper lip, and we don't like to blow our own trumpets, maybe like some other cultures do. What do you mean by helping people fall in love with themselves?
So I've been doing some research and different people that I've been talking to, and particularly with women who, as I've said, are kind of on that similar place that I was in. And what I've realized is that, and again, this is really for women in the context in which I work, but women are really happy with fine. And fine is kind of a word that we use that can disguise a whole bunch of other things about how we feel. And sometimes fine is actually just what people are aspiring to. It's like, well, it's fine, and I'm okay with that. And actually, there's a lot of freedom to be had when you can kind of move past fine. And a big part of that for me is around how you feel about it yourself. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you kind of dance out in the world and you scream from the rooftops how much you love yourself. Although I'm a big supporter of doing that if that's what you want to do. I think it would be better if more people could talk about how wonderful they think they are, because we all deserve to feel that way. And I think it is just about that. Like, you really deserve to feel that you are the best version of yourself, and it's not about necessarily changing who you are to become something better. It's more about recognizing what are your unique gifts and strengths and skills that you have, and where there's a lot of barriers to confidence that women go through. And some of those barriers are around just owning our ambition and owning our desire to do more and to have more. And actually what we're regularly taught is that it's not feminine, or it's not kind of appropriate for women to have that kind of ambition. And women are more likely to worry about bragging, for example, than men are by talking in the same way about themselves. And I think it's just about a little bit of a liberation from all of that, within whatever way makes any person feel comfortable. But, just there's something really freeing about coming from a space of feeling like you're lacking in confidence and not really recognizing your self-worth, and moving past that and actually recognizing that you're, that actually you're pretty good, and that you're very well worth everything that you possibly want.
It sounds great. I love that women are settle for fine.
Yeah.
Don't settle for fine. If you're going to settle for absolutely magnificent or fabulous, but exactly. Not fine. Yeah. I think that should be a byline on your website. Don't settle for fine. How are you? I'm fine. How's life? Fine. Basically, it's a catch-all word to say it's a bit grey.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be connected to so many things. Like, you're maybe afraid of wanting more, you've settled, you're maybe hiding the truth about how you feel about what's going on. Like, there's so many things that fine just encompasses,
I love that you've called us out on fine. Never say fine. Never say fine.
Free ourselves from fine. Freedom from fine.
Well, freedom, and it's all part of your theme, which is unleashed coaching, which I love. Energy practitioner, Shewolf.
Yes.
Shewolf.
Shewolf. That's me.
Can you just tell us finally, to round up, what is Shewolf? I kind of know Howling at the Moon. Tell me about your Shewolf.
So the she-wolf comes from, the she-wolf is my spirit animal. So that's where that's kind of connected to. And for me, the she-wolf is loyal and brave and fierce and loving, and has a pack in whatever way, and is kind of a core part of the pack, and kind of looks out for and protects others, and also looks out for and protects herself, and is quite a powerful, is quite a powerful kind of animal to have. So that's why I love the she-wolf, and yeah, it's important to me.
Well, I love the she-wolf too. Sounds ferocious, and she sounds more than fine and fabulous.
She's definitely more than fine.
Yeah.